Download our app today at newwavetkd.com.
Hello and welcome to the Marshall Perspective. Today is May 7th, 2026. Today, my very special guest is Dr. Leonard Wayne, author of the hit book Higher and Higher. It's a life story of his life. Today is my 44th trip around the world, or around the sun, rather. So there's no other place I'd really rather be right now than talking with Dr. Leonard Wayne. Thank you for being on the show, sir.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
So you are a Tang Soo guy, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
I started in 1964. I
Oh,
was
wow.
9 years old. And at the time, I met Joe Lewis and Bob Wall and Carlos Ray Norris and Mike Stone. And all of a
Wow.
sudden, I decided, you know what? I think I want to get into this karate.
That's amazing. That's a group of people that, wow, that's all I can say. I mean, those are some of my heroes, people that I look up to. Near future, I'll be interviewing a gentleman by the name of Grandmaster Phil Maldonado, who is a first generation Joe Lewis student. I don't know if you know who he is or not, but he's a fantastic guy.
Amen. Well, if I may, I'll do a plug for my book. I'm proud to tell you that Mike Stone read this book 3 times. And I thought, isn't that amazing that he took the time to read my book? And I want to interject this. It was Ed Parker's first tournament at Long Beach. And my cousin Howie and I are attending. And I see this guy with this big afro. And he throws this incredible ridge hand. I told my cousin Howie, I'm going to go introduce myself to that man.
Mhm.
And do you know, when Mike comes into town, he always notifies me in advance, and we enjoy sushi together. And he not only remembers that 9-year-old, but it's just amazing how you live long enough, you get stories like this.
Well, from the sounds of it, sir, you have an amazing story. So go ahead and let's talk about you. Tell me a little bit about you and how this all started.
Well, ironically, as you know, in the 60s, there weren't a lot of dojangs, okay? And tournaments were new. We didn't wear any pads other than a cup. I believe they called it the blood and guts era. And I'm so honored to be part of the 60s and 70s. And to put it in perspective, I started training in 64, and it wasn't until 1973 that I earned my black belt.
Mm-hmm.
And no offense, there are so many big egos now that we just laugh.
There is.
And it's sad because we used to pride ourselves by abiding by the creeds. Most young people don't even know what I'm talking about. I also want you to know that it was interesting. In 1983, I had the honor of teaching for Master Richard Chung in New York.
Wow.
And he was somebody I really respected. And I used his 2 books, Mudak Kwan, Volume 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
And those were the textbooks that I used in my dojang. Because as I told my students, no matter where you go, this is it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
nobody's going to tell you, oh no, this is an inside outside block. It is what it is. But I thought it added a lot of credence.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as, again, this young boy, I don't like to talk bad about the dead. So I'll be diplomatic here.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the senseis I had at a young age really admired my sister's breast. So all of a sudden, doors started opening. And even when I said, I really don't have the money, well, can you sweep? Oh, yes, I can sweep. So it was a different type of brotherhood.
Mm-hmm.
And then fighting in tournaments. It was really a tight group of guys, and we'd go have tacos together
Mhm.
after beating each other up. The Black Federation group had
Mhm.
started to come to fruition. And I would tell my cousin Howie, I have better fights in the bathroom being jumped because they know who you are. You get a reputation. I was very large. My mom had to bring my birth certificate to the Little League games. If that helps put it in perspective, that kid's not 9, he's too big. So, ironically, again, I remember my first tournament, I broke this guy's floating rib because I didn't even pull my punch. He
Mhm.
had to be 8 or 9 years older than me. So I'm like, come on. But again, I was reprimanded and told you can't do that. And
Mhm.
instead of being sent to the principal's office, I actually ended up getting a trophy. So I knew then this is going to be a very enjoyable experience. I had a very dark childhood.
Mhm.
My father was very abusive.
Mhm.
He didn't like himself. He worked at Ford Motor Company. He hated his job. And he would come home and take out his frustration on me and my mom. And once he couldn't hurt me anymore, hitting me, he'd start kicking my dog.
Oh.
So it was really amazing that by the time I was probably 13, I made it clear to him, if you ever hit anyone in this household, I'm going to hit you.
Mhm.
And it all changed.
Well,
I
that's
want to interject
good.
this. I know my dear friend AJ Perry knows this, but you might not.
Mhm.
In the 70s, I was also a very talented boxer because I was
Oh.
ambidextrous. And I would go to the Olympic Auditorium and spar Ken Norton. I'm sure you remember his name. He broke Ali's jaw. Well, Kenny's the one who introduced me to Napoleon Hill Think and Grow Rich.
Mhm.
But ironically, there was a gentleman there named Jimmy Hoffa and Jackie Presser and Frank
Wow.
Fitzsimmons. And they asked me to become the next great heavyweight fighter because I was blonde, blue eyes, and almost 6'5". And I thought,
Right.
isn't this fabulous? They're going to send me to Europe, have me train with Kenny LaSalle.
Mhm.
I can bring my girlfriend. I'm going to be a multimillionaire. As Kenny said, you even have the ability to communicate. He called me Lenny the Lion.
Lenny the
And I'm
Lion.
like, okay, well, my mom got on her knees and literally begged me not to become a boxer. And I said,
Mhm.
Mom, I go and fight on the weekends and I don't get anything, maybe a medal or a trophy, but I honored her request. And it's amazing that we do things to respect the people we love. So I thought again, she was worthy of that. But I know to this day, um, as Kenny said, I was very fast. So to be a big man that has speed, but regardless, it was just amazing. I was at his bedside in Henderson, Nevada,
Mhm.
when he died, broke. I want to repeat, broke.
Really?
And it's so sad how many of these boxers lose all their money.
Yeah, that's a common thing. I mean, Tyson went broke how many times? He's not broke now,
Yeah.
but that's insane. Wow.
Well, unfortunately, they don't understand saving for a rainy day. I
No.
know I want to share this. Uh, the Teamsters had me doing a lot of things for them. And I'm sure you can imagine, they're all in my book. They originally called me a sergeant of arms, and I would remove people from union meetings that were not cooperating. And then, need be, I'd have to go fix them. So I'm embarrassed to say I was abusing what I had learned. And at the time, 16, 17 years old, to have a 35-year-old man as your driver that would be shaking after witnessing you getting out and just taking three dudes apart. And I thought, isn't this interesting?
Wow.
I'm really a badass. But it then turned into smuggling cocaine. So
Mhm.
they would get me a double promenade suite on the Princess Cruise Line, and I would travel from Miami. And at Caracas, Venezuela, I would meet a man named Walter, and I would get 8 kilos of pure cocaine and bring it back to Acapulco. Needless to say, I'm now working as a stuntman at Universal Studio, and I run into Joe Lewis, and Joe and I are reminiscing, and Joe enjoyed what I had. Let's put it that way. So, so we had a lot of unique experiences that so many people. I mean, as much as I love Jeff Smith and Joe Corley, they never partied the way I partied because I could have been Joe's brother. I mean, we look so much alike. And I tried to tell Joe in the 70s when he was making his Jaguar and other films, Joe, the industry, unfortunately, is very gay. And they're going to want you, not women on the casting couch, you. That's why I became a stuntman.
Because they didn't want to deal with any stuntmen.
If you read my book, you'll read a chapter where I'm reading now at MGM, the same role Nick Nolte had, Rich Man, Poor Man. And the casting director said that if I didn't become more cooperative, it was going to be difficult for me to make it in this industry. And I said, no offense, Sid, if I wanted to be a male prostitute, I wouldn't be taking acting lessons, and I certainly wouldn't have you as an agent.
Right.
So, of course, this rubbed him the wrong way, and I don't want to ruin it for any of your listeners that might be inclined to get my book higher and higher. But you'll read that I was informed by Sid Craig that I probably should come to his office, Sunset Boulevard, and get my pictures because he wouldn't be able to represent me anymore. And he also wanted to interject, and you're really not that good of an actor. So you have to remember, John, I was pretty crazy. Okay. So I remember taking my Colt 45 and taking it with me to his office, going in and proceeding to pull it out. I pulled the receiver back and I said, "Do you want to make amends to your maker before I blow your fucking head off?" And you could smell he had shit his pants. And as I took the magazine out, I said, "I was acting. Did you believe I was really going to shoot you? I guess I'm a pretty good actor."
I would say so.
Well, that's when Dick Bacallion, who's on the cover of the book and was part of Sinatra's crew, the Rat Pack, said, "You probably should get into stunt work." So that was how I got in, and I started in the Wild Wild West show at Universal Studios playing a cowboy. And I thought, isn't this ironic? Because in high school, one of my girlfriends worked at Knott's Berry Farm, and that's where I did some cowboy work too. I go, "You're going to pay me to rob trains?" But it was fascinating, and I really want to make this clear to your listeners. I believe in what Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich shares. The wisdom is real. And he talks about the power of visualization. So I can show you pictures of me dressed at 6 as a cowboy, and then a picture of me in a cowboy outfit at 19. So it proves whatever you think about. And even my friend Ray Savinik said, "You always thought you were going to be a millionaire." Well, I made my first million at 39. A pilot. I got my pilot's license. Everything you've ever thought of. And I go, "Ray, I learned that in martial arts. See, winners never quit. Quitters never win." The creeds accompany your decisions with actions. See, these are things young people in martial arts, unless they're blessed to find someone like Master A.J. Perry, they're just not going to hear this stuff. Yeah.
Right.
And I think you, as a young man, would concur.
Absolutely.
Most of these McDojos are about money.
Yes.
And it's pretty obvious. I, again, know that I'm so blessed to have the people that mentored me, even Robert Terrace. I mean, another great man. All of these individuals, no matter where I was. I mean, when Billy Jack came out, I remember riding my motorcycle by a park in Santa Monica, and here's this guy practicing martial arts. I'm like, "Who is that?" Well, I think you know who I'm talking about because he did all the double work for Tom Laughlin. Yep. There you go.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Well, again, that movie sparked in North America. I want to learn martial arts. And I
Mhm.
don't know if you're aware of this. I live in Huntington Beach. Well,
Yes, sir.
Mike Stone used to have a dojang right here in Huntington Beach. And I can go all the way back to Priscilla Presley days. See, again, I knew Chuck, Bob, Mike, all of them when all this was happening. I know
Mhm.
what really was happening. So I've got to be diplomatic here. But it was interesting because all of them were very active. All of them had their own ego. Do you agree that one of the things, again, that's so sad is the ego? I'll never forget Chuck Norris reprimanding Bob Wall. He
Really?
said, Bob, you talk too much about yourself. Now, I don't know if you knew Bob Wall or ever met him,
Mm-mm.
but he enjoyed telling people about his background, the people he's trained and blah, blah, blah. And it was almost like an elevator pitch. I mean, he had it down. We're in 3 minutes. Yeah, the largest grossing film of, matter of fact, for your listeners, if they go to my website, leonardwayne.com, you will actually see a video of Bob Wall talking about me being one of his black belts and pitching my book because I tried to help him with his alcohol problem. I
Mhm.
do interventions, and I'll never forget when Lillian called me, and I thought, isn't this amazing? A man that I respected so highly is now needing my services. So I spent 3 days with Bob and tried to help him understand you can't drink alcohol anymore. It's no longer your friend. I
Right.
haven't had a drink in going on 17 years. And I divulge in my book that I could outdrink everybody. I could outsmoke you, snort you. I can outwhip your head. I had to be that person. I was
Right.
that desperate for attention. See, in life, I think you'd agree, since a young age, we start competing for the attention of others.
Mhm.
It's natural. Okay.
Right.
And for me, I had all these other men that became my father because my father wasn't the father I wanted. He was a coward.
Mhm.
And for people, again, that read my book, they're amazed of what I've become having a father. My father not only tortured us because he didn't like what he did, and I despised him for it. Well, here it is. I'm
Mhm.
39 years old. I'm the senior vice president running this company called Merrill Lynch, making 800 grand a year, specializing in hiding
Wow.
money offshore. And he comes to my office and wants to know, where did I come from? I said, well, I assume it was your sperm. But ironically, he'd now become the underdog. My mom was paying him back. She had become an RN nurse, was making
Mhm.
more money than he ever made. Well, unfortunately, she now found diazepam and Valium and started mixing it with their Kendall Jackson, and she became a person I didn't even recognize. My mom
Wow.
didn't have any alcohol in our house or cigarettes. She had to make homemade bread. She was my Cub Scout leader. She was the
Mhm.
Sunday school teacher. And now she's this foul mouthed whore that's literally having affairs with men in the church, including the
Oh.
gentleman that lived across the street. So I told my dad, Dad, I know you. And see, I don't know how familiar you are with bipolar manic depressants, but when they snap, they have no governor.
Right.
Okay. In my book, you'll read that at 7 years of age, I didn't say, please pass the taco sauce. So he picked up the plate, smashed it on the table, threw a taco at my head. This was the life I lived. Well,
Unbelievable.
I'm now telling him, Dad, I had a vision, a premonition. Now, I want you to listen to me. You're going to end up shooting my mom in the heart and shooting her in the head because you have only been with one woman in your entire life. You should be in the
Mhm.
Guinness Book of World Record. One woman. and you're now being tortured because of what you did to us. So he promised me that he wouldn't hurt my mother. So then I took my mom to the Ritz-Carlton and I got her a new
Mhm.
Cartier watch because she loved my money. And I said, Mom, Dad's going to end up shooting you in the heart and shoot you in the head. She goes, you see this Colt 38 you bought me? I'll just shoot it. Mom, you're going to be passed out drunk. So he waited for her birthday, April Fool's Day, and shot her in the heart, shot her in the head, put the Doberman I gave him in the bathroom, blew his head off.
Oh my gosh.
Now that was
And
just
you were how
before
old when this happened?
I was almost 39, and this is now just before I'm indicted for securities fraud and going to go to federal prison. And I'm like, what next, Lord? Am I going to get boils on the bottom of my feet?
Wow.
But I'm telling you, for people who read my book, they can't believe it. The other thing I want to interject, John, my attorney who just passed away went to high school with me and he went to USC with me.
Mhm.
He writes at the beginning of the book, what you're reading here is all real. I witnessed it. This guy intimidated the teachers. He was fearless. The guy was just nuts because he needed attention. But the point
Right.
is, people realize if this guy can change and become this individual, my colleagues call me Dr. Leonard of the Light, because that's what I try to do is help people get out of darkness into the light. But
Wow.
that's what I emphasize. No matter what you've been through, it will make you a stronger person. And when I speak now at medical events, so many of the physicians have either listened to my book, because you can get it on audio, Higher and Higher by Leonard Wayne, or you can Kindle or the book. But the point is, they want to talk about first, what was the scariest thing you ever did? Was it jumping off that 120-foot cliff? Was it this? Was it that? No, the scariest thing I did was I wrote this book. See, I told you things I'd kept hidden for almost 37 years. No one knew what I did, and no
So
one
you
was going to ask. They were
right.
afraid to ask.
So you went from being this impenetrable mountain of a man who had, no fear of anything to being a vulnerable person and putting yourself out there for the whole world to read or listen to.
Absolutely.
That has to be
Especially when I
terrifying.
interject, how can you threaten me? I wrote it all in a book.
Right.
So it's all
Wow.
there. You can't, the
Unbelievable.
one thing that I
Well,
thought might hinder me as someone working now as a clinician, I thought, well, is the state going to give me? Well, it's first a white collar crime, no violence. And that's one of the things I thought was interesting. The judge, the first Black federal judge, Vanessa Gilmore,
mhm.
not only has read my book, she now is retired and written 3 books herself, but she said, Mr. Wayne, I knew you'd never be back in prison. And I want you to know, Mr. Wayne, they're still using your motivational program that you implemented for the federal prison system. I said, that's
Wow.
great because most inmates get out and they have to have a flight plan. What do we want to do with our life? Where are we going to go? I
Right.
still go to federal prisons today. And as a publisher author, I'm able to take my books and give them to inmates. And you'll read in one of the 130 reviews on Amazon, one of the wives stating that my husband met Dr. Wayne today at Terminal Island, and the inmate said today it's Love Island because Dr. Leonard of the Light came and loved us. Now, that made me
Wow.
cry, John.
That's yeah.
See, these are things that you can't buy.
Wow.
As Joe Louis said, Lenny, you can't take trophies to the bank. They have no real value, do they?
No.
So it's so strange the difference of Joe Louis and Chuck Norris. See, and then Mike Stone, as you know, Mike was always considered to be such a bad man to leave his wife and run away with Priscilla. And I'm like, what's sad is you people again are jealous that you didn't have the ability. And regardless, It's wrong to judge another man. Okay, I know Mike loves me as a brother. I love
Mhm.
him. I don't judge him. I'm going to say again, for him to say, I had to read your book 3 times, so many similarities. And I always ask him, isn't it interesting that people have this illusion of us based on our appearance, and yet they really don't know what's going on inside? My latest book
Wow.
is called The High Doctor Will See You Now. And I want you to know over the last 15 years, I've done over 200 interventions for physicians. And most people believe that physicians are extremely talented, smart people. They would never become alcoholics and addicts. And I can't tell you how many stories I've heard, and I'm like, oh my God, I thought I was crazy.
Wow.
But it's amazing because, again, I thought, well, maybe the general public would be interested in realizing they're human beings. They
Yeah.
blame the pharmaceutical rep for leaving too many samples. They say they work long hours, so they deserve it. And see, you're in the state of California, you get a DUI as a doctor, you're on probation for 7 years. And part
Yeah.
of my job is to help you keep your license. But I find it amazing because I'm now completely done with that life. It's just fascinating to me. I actually have a sober counter on my phone, and it calculates how much money I've also saved by not using and drinking. And it's a staggering amount. But at 70 years of age, I feel extremely healthy. I still work out 3 days a week. I have young men in their 30s going, dude, what are you on? But it's just a healthy attitude. I'm going to share something with your listeners. I
Mhm.
start my morning early, still dark. I light a candle. Now, I'm also an ordained pastor, so my God is Christ. And I ask him, Lord God, thank you for another day. I want you to lead, guide, and direct me and speak through me boldly to help people in darkness find the light.
Mhm.
And the people that call me, you'd be amazed. And I do no advertising. I'll ask people, where did you find me? On Google. Okay, so you found me on Google. All right. Some of them will say, I read your book. Really? I know you're the right person to help me. After reading my book, I'm the right person to help you? Wow.
Wow.
Because remember, the book has incredible stories, but I tell people you have to finish it because the last 2 chapters, as Chris Christopherson said, why me, Lord? What have I ever done to deserve even one of the many blessings I've known? Maybe now you can use me to help someone else find their way home. I used to
Wow.
smoke cannabis with him at his island in Maui, and it was fascinating that, again, look at the people I hang out with. I want to go back to the cocaine days. I didn't cut my cocaine. It's pure. And all of these
Jeez.
celebrities, because Dick Bacallian's house was the house. Frank
Mhm.
Sinatra, Bobby Darin, you name it. They're there. Sammy Davis, they're there.
Mhm.
And Dick is introducing me, his family, and all of a sudden, do you want? In the 70s, we used to wear gold chains with a gold spoon. It was that prevalent. I mean, cocaine
Wow.
was just part of partying in the 70s. Well, I try to tell him, look, I'm not a dealer. The only reason you're getting this is you know Bacallian. So
Mhm.
get what you want because I don't do all that running around crap. But it became quite obvious that this was so amazing. I didn't care if you were Jack Nicholson, James Coburn. I didn't care who, and they were just, dude, this is right because I don't cut it. I don't know if you've ever done cocaine, but pure
No.
cocaine is much different. And
Mhm.
all of a sudden, like I said, you know everybody that people admire. They're in
Mhm.
awe. These are movie stars, and you party with them? Well, they're human beings. As Dick would always say, you know, what makes you so enjoyable is you don't treat them different. I remember Bobby Darin and Frank. and they were discussing who's better. And I don't know how familiar you are with Bobby Darin, but that
Love Bobby
dude
Darin.
was doing the moonwalk before Michael. I mean, he used to have to take oxygen in between his songs. They had a show called the Bobby Darin Show, and Dick was one of the regulars. And I got to
Wow.
go, and I'm backstage, and I'm getting to see y'all.
Mhm.
Now, remember, I'm going back to my home, and I don't discuss any of this. See, I learned from my uncle that criminals that get caught talk about what they did. Where if you don't talk about it,
Mhm.
that reduces the chance. So I became someone that even my mom, it's like, where did you get that 911 Targa? I mean, you've got everything. I don't get it. They knew better than to ask. But it was fascinating that I still have the tickets from the trips, proof, because I at times go, I really did. Jumping trains. People ask, why did you jump trains? Because it was exciting. I thought that'd be fun. Plus, we didn't know where they were going to stop. Anything that would take you to that level of endorphin, climbing up that cliff at the Colorado
Wow.
River, which is called suicide. And it took 20 minutes to climb. My two cousins were crawling on their bellies. They wouldn't even walk to the edge. And my friend Kerry Fanning was in the boat on his back with his camera. He goes, are you going to jump? And he took a picture of me jumping because my ego, my pride, there's no way I'm turning around. I won't die. I used to climb out of cars doing 70 miles an hour and hood surf, leaving the Dodger game. And I have friends that just called last week. Len, do you remember you do that crazy shit where you, I go, I should have been dead so many times, John. God has had me in his hand, and he's been protecting my dumbass because he knew eventually I'm going to use you. And without boasting, I work with billionaires.
Mhm.
And I ask them, isn't it amazing? People believe that money buys happiness. And you're not happy at all, are you? And then I work with people that they don't know how they're going to come up. I charge $250 an hour for my services, and they come up with it, and their lives change. Where the wealthy ones, I can stay with them for a week, 2 weeks, and they'll pay you 50 grand. Money is just, they don't understand. You have to serve somebody. Remember when Bob Dylan said that? You got to
Wow.
serve somebody.
Yes.
1973, my friend Ray and I, Greek theater, watching Bob Dylan. Bob Dylan comes out and he's converted to Christianity. I'm not exaggerating, John. They booed him. They didn't want to hear that. And I thought, look at this dude.
He's got everything.
I had some experiences. One, when I was working in Vegas as a collector, and I'll share briefly with you. I'm at this gentleman's estate waiting for him. I'm in his backyard, skinny dipping. All of a sudden, I get out, and there's this little black man behind me wearing a gardener's belt. So I naturally assumed he's a gardener. He gets on his knees and he says, you're the chosen Messiah. I go, no, no, you're crazy. Get up. You don't know what you're talking about. Just like that, John, I see the gentleman coming at his rear sliding glass window. He now is trying to figure out who's this dude wearing boxes all wet in his backyard. And as I turned to give him, Jerry Slocum sent me to collect his money. And you've got an interesting gardener. The gardener's now vanished. He says, I don't have a gardener. It scared me so much, John. I want to repeat, scared me, this guy that doesn't get scared, that I had to leave Vegas and go back to Newport. And I didn't want to tell anybody because I didn't believe in that stuff. There's another incident I'll share where I'd done a diamond heist. Sammy Davis Jr.'s wife was getting a diamond delivery from Fisco. I overheard it, so I had my crew take him out at the airport. Well, she had a psychic mother. And the mother called and said, I know you were involved in that. And I go, really? Well, then call the police. But it really threw me off because I'm thinking I never believed in any of that stuff. But obviously, as I'm more mature, I realize that angels are all through the Bible. Even when I
Yes.
tell people, especially addiction, I tell them, it says in Luke chapter 10, 19, we have power over all demonic spirits, all of them. And I carry anointing oil in my bag. And I've had tattooed, crackhead, skinhead, tough dudes, such pain, such pain. And they'll say this, aren't you supposed to be talking to me? I go, well, Chad, right now I'm praying. You're what? I'm praying. I can feel your pain. And Chad, if you were a believer, I have anointing oil in my bag, and I can anoint you and demand that those spirits go back to get the fucking oil. That's what he said. I said, okay. Now remember, his dad's a neurosurgeon, his mom's an RN nurse, and they're watching through the window as I'm doing this in their Mercedes Benz. After I anointed him, John, he
Wow.
literally went into this trance where he slept for 20 hours. His mom was, did you give him a Valium? Did you give him come on, you gave him something, didn't you? Penny, you saw what I did. I guess it speaks for itself. I want to
Wow.
repeat, only to those that believe. And is anointing oil in the Bible? Of course it is. See, a lot of people don't understand the Bible is a fascinating book. And when I was doing my federal prison, not only in the desert, in the chaplain's office, there was a large print King James Bible. And I reached out, I said, who's this? That must be yours. So I decided, since I got some discretionary time, I'm going to read this thing. So as Bob Weld says in that video, he believes I know more about Scripture than anyone he's ever met. And I
Really?
prayed for him. I really did. So I'm really hoping that he ended up in a good place. But we don't know. Even on your deathbed, as you know, I remind people, my friend Richard Bacallion on the cover of my book was in George Stevens' film, The Greatest Story Ever Told. And obviously in that scene, they've got Christ on the cross. Well, the thief next to him was Dick Bacallion. And Dick called his mom and says, Mom, I'm hanging around some pretty good people today. And I thought, you're just a crack up. But the point is, again, the thief on the cross wasn't baptized, was he? He didn't go to church, did he? He didn't put money in an offering basket. And yet, what did Christ say to him? Today you'll be with me in paradise. So I try to remind people, my God has a sense of humor. He's always laughing, especially when I think I got it figured out. It's like, really? Are you happy? Lord, what do you want me to do? And that's what makes me happy. So as much as people can find me all over the place by doing research, I try to always remind them the only thing that matters to me is trying to help people get out of darkness. On the back of my card, it says, stay in the light.
Letting the light.
And wouldn't you agree, John?
That's,
see, that's
yeah,
not religion. See, even though people that know Scripture know Christ was the light, but even insects will go to the light in the dark building, won't they? See, light attracts. So it's really just common sense. Last thing I'll interject. Your listeners are getting a lot of free therapy. We are all transmitters. We're transmitters. Regardless if we understand it or not, we are transmitting energy. We can either radiate positive energy and get positive things back, or negative energy. And those are people that are always angry. They're always blue. Again, as Gordon Lightfoot says, more happy than blue. So you have to understand the same with the radio. See, if we want to listen to jazz on 95.2 and yet it's tuned to 103 rock, we have to turn the knob. We have to change the channel. So I tell my clients, I'm going to teach you mind shifting techniques. I'm going to teach you how to shift your thoughts. And all of a sudden you have power. I give out these armbands. It says, the devil's a liar, praise the Lord. Now, you say that 3 times, that's Satan's kryptonite. He can't be around people praising the. Now, people will say, Doc, that actually works. Of course it does. You've shifted your thoughts. Now, on the other side, it says stay in the light. So if you're already in a good mood, because people will ask me, oh, now I carry lots of these because I give them out.
Mhm.
I give out Jesus coins, says King of Kings, Lord of Lords. I have no offering basket, John. See, I do loving things all the time, and I try not to get caught doing it. I don't turn it into a look at me, look at me. I take In-N-Out burgers to Charlie Street, which is an indigent facility. They love it.
Mhm.
They know Dr. Wayne brought these, didn't he? He tries to get away. He doesn't want pictures and accolades. He just, and I'm not bringing McDonald's. This isn't Mickey D. This is In-N-Out Burger because I
Right.
treat people the way I'd like to be treated.
Wow. So you mentioned the thief on the cross and Jesus on the cross. When Jesus was on the cross, that was the only time in the entire Bible that he cried out, "Why, Lord, have you forsaken me?" With your extraordinary life, getting indicted, getting put in a very long time out, I'm sure, and having some time on your hands. When was the moment that you cried out and said, "Hey, lift me, where are you?
Um,
Lift me up"?
I I want to share 2 things quickly. Uh, I was 16 years old.
Hmm.
Now remember, I've got long blonde hair. I have more women than I can keep track of. I
Hmm.
mean, I'm this golden bronze stud.
Hmm.
And I'm riding my motorcycle and I see this tent in a strawberry field with a bunch of hippies. And I'm kind of curious because there's women. So
Right.
I pursue to the, and I find out it's Papa Chuck Smith and Calvary Chapel is just beginning in a tent. And I'm fascinated. And this guy was not like the traditional preacher. Hawaiian shirt, sandals. I'm like, what a trip.
Hmm.
So he had announced that the next day they were meeting at Corona del Mar, Pirates Cove, and they were going to have a baptizing ceremony.
Hmm.
Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of a preacher named Greg Laurie. He has quite a following, but Greg Laurie was there with me when we got baptized. Now, John, I want to make this
Hmm.
clear to your listeners. I couldn't express with words the feeling I had. I had this feeling that I couldn't wait to change everything. And the first thing I had to do is tell my girlfriend, we can't have promiscuous sex anymore because we're not married. Now, this girl could truly suck the chrome off a Buick. She is very talented. And she was like, what? I'm like, yeah, I think it lasted 2 weeks before
Wow.
flesh. And it now put me deeper. See, now I met Jimmy Hoffa. Now I'm smuggling coke. Now I'm in even deeper. You get me? See, I want you
Yeah.
to know you have to serve somebody. So after getting away with all these things, I mean, breaking legs, breaking arms, arson, burning buildings, I'm now going to be indicted for securities fraud. Let me explain to your listeners how that happened. I retired, so I'm no longer registered with the National Association Security Dealer, and I'm no longer protected by that entity because I'm retired. Well, this
Hmm.
smooth talking con man from Texas knew I was the venture capital king, and he asked if I could raise his company a quick $5 million, offered me a handsome interest rate. So I did more research on this company. I called the Better Business Bureau. I did a lot of due diligence because I knew I wasn't protected any longer. So it took me 8 weeks to raise them to 5 million. I was paid. My offshore corporations were paid. I'm now going through a divorce, um, completely going through middle age crisis. The slant nose Porsche, the beach house. I'm living next to Nicole Brown Simpson, that was obviously OJ. But where I'm going with this is I wasn't happy, but I thought I was pretty cool. I wanted you to see the inside of
Right.
my, see, it says made for Leonard. See, I mean, this is, look at me. Look at me. I now find myself being indicted because of this gentleman that had not only stole all the money, and I'm like, wait a minute. Well, I sold the Attorney General of Florida. I was that talented on the phone. And I'm telling the FBI, look, she's the Attorney General of Florida. She obviously did due diligence just like I did. So I didn't get, okay, Mr.
Mhm.
Wayne, here's what you need to understand. You were paid from Houston in California. That's interstate theft. That's the only charge we're going to be able to get.
Oh,
And you're looking at 10 years. What? I'm looking at 10 years in prison? First thing you have to do, Mr. Wayne, is pay Judith Shin, the Attorney General, her 25 grand back. I didn't get her money. I don't care. Here's 25 grand. Okay, now what? Okay, now you have to appear in Houston, get an attorney. $100,000. I got Dave Adler. Dave Adler was sleeping with the judge, Vanessa Gilmore. Figured that'd be a good attorney to have. And I'm thinking I'm going to walk. Oh, no, no. My
right.
sister, my sister told the FBI, my brother's got away with stuff all his life. He should go away for a long time. Now, this is a person I
Oh,
subsidized. And I'm like, you're kidding me. My sister? Okay. Now, remember, this is in your jacket. So it's not something you can change because I had to show her
right.
kids. Look what your mom said about me. And I haven't spoken to her since. She still tries to. I go, no, 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 I'm dead. See, I'm Irish and I'm very stubborn. So once you do that to
Yeah.
me, that's it. I'm very loyal. That's it. The point being is, I now found myself being told I'm going to do 28 months and $250,000 restitution. Okay, here's the 250 grand. Well, when I went in, self-surrendered, I was in Safford, Arizona, which is in the middle of nowhere. And the warden came up and said, you're very good with raising money. I want you to do my books and handle my portfolio. And I'm going to give you a very comfy job here. See, you're a badass martial artist, right? Well, I'm going to explain something to you. These inmates take the motors out of my typewriters to make tattoo machines. So I want you to run my they call it the writing room with my typewriters, and you'll get early eating privilege. You get a private bathroom. You get air conditioned office. I go, wow, this is amazing. Just like the outside where I'm able to run things, I'm now doing it in the federal prison. So
Wow.
that's why I felt like setting up this program. There's a couple of stories I put in my book about blacks trying to confront me, and they were amazed that the old man went out and stood up and said, okay, let's go. Because believe it or not, I've used what I've been taught. That's something I want to interject. You might not know this, but a lot of martial artists, like Chuck Norris, have never been in a fight. Never. Never been in a street
Wow.
fight. Bill Wallace, never been in a street fight. So to me, just like Joe Louis would always say, Joe and I have been in a few fights together, you now know your skills. You now know what you're capable of doing. When you do a spear hand and poke someone's eye out, they're not going to talk anymore. An ox jaw to
Mm-mm.
the esophagus. See, they don't realize how quick, but we aren't supposed to abuse the art. So there was a constant balance of good and bad. If you haven't realized, most of my life has always been a balancing act of, okay, do I want to stay in the light and be good, or do I want to go back in the dark? And because of the World Wide Web, I have ladies contacting me. Do you remember when? I have no idea, but whatever you say, because
Right.
alcohol and cocaine and promiscuous behavior. John, I come from the school where the more women you had, you were looked at as a stud. You're the
Hmm.
dude, man. That's why to this day, I'll post pictures of me at 17, 18, and people look, and it's like, that looks like Joe Louis. Yeah, we could have been brothers. Joe had an
Wow.
interesting life. He didn't share it with many. That's the same with Mike Stone. Most people don't really get to meet Mike Stone because Mike does seminars. See, he's not really inclined to tell you about that inner soul. He's always tried to be a poet and is trying harder to publish things. But let's face it, I'm also reluctant to say the majority of them have no money. I think Jeff Smith and Wallace are probably the exception to the rule, but you don't make money. I mean, do you know who Bob Wall is and what happened when they convinced Joe Louis to sell the Sherman Oaks Dojang? And
Mhm.
Bob said, let me get Chuck Norris. We can put his name up there. And Bob now became the used car salesman, marketing, franchising. Let's set him up. Where Chuck was a traditionalist, neither of them were macho men. So all of a sudden, because of these young, beautiful wives coming with their young students, there was a ripe environment in the parking lot. And I saw a lot of that. So I knew what was really happening. But it's just to me, again, amazing the places the Lord has put me to see things firsthand. But I think as far as really connecting, it was back in prison when I read the whole book. And in prison, I made the mistake of calling a Cuban friend who I had opened my safe before I left and loaned him 50 grand out of 300 grand in the safe. And besides him, no one knew that safe was there. Well, I
Right.
called him and said, look, I'm in Safford prison. Could you get my wife's girlfriend at the time some flowers? So he knew she was going to be visiting me in Safford. And I put his name in the book. And when I got
Mhm.
out, I took him to a sushi rinse and I said, you know, Armando, usually I stab people like you. Because, see, I know you're the one that broke in and stole the 250 grand and my parents' jewelry. But revenge is served best cold.
Mhm.
So I still every so often reach out. How you doing, Armando? But see, it's not worth going to prison for killing that asshole. And the good
Right.
Lord has blessed me tenfold. Without boasting, I have places like Costa Rica Recovery. They pay me 30 grand to come first class, stay a week, evaluate their facility, and critique it. Now, on the
Wow.
plane, I'm saying, you know, Lord, when I was in prison and I had no idea what I was going to do when I got out because I couldn't be a broker anymore, one of the
Mhm.
stipulations was you can never. The FBI had me on tape and they said, you are so smooth. I love the part where you say, now, John, you understand as good as this investment opportunity is for you and your wife, if this in any way is going to jeopardize your family, take food off the table, I would suggest you don't invest in anything. No, no,
Mhm.
no. This is great. This is just what I want. I was that convincing on the phone to have strangers put 25 grand in a FedEx envelope and send it. Even the guy that had hired me, John Rocket, said, I've never met anyone like you. And I'm thinking to myself, well, if you had actually used this money as you said you were going to use it, none of this would have happened. But you've been busted before. This is what you do. You are such a good con man. You con me. So once again,
Right.
I got to feel what it feels like. I make a point of telling people in my book I had over $2 million offshore from illegal gotten gains. It all got taken.
Wow.
I had 500,000 in cash. It all got taken. Either ex-wives or but the point being, as it says in scripture, illegal gotten gains. Now the money I make, I don't worry about it at all. And the
Right.
interesting thing is I run into people all the time that I've got this day trader. I don't do that stuff anymore. Okay. I
Mhm.
get very excited helping people get out of darkness. That's what I do. It makes me happy. I don't make 800,000 a year anymore, but I don't need 800,000 a year. I'm not only blessed that I have people in their 30s and 40s and 50s that constantly want my advice and pay me handsomely for it. Now, that to me is God's sense of humor. So you can use your skills as a
Yeah.
communicator to help them heal. And I'm like, yeah. So that helps me heal. I practice what I preach. Most of the martial artists that have been around 50 years know me, and they'll tell you, oh, that dude has changed so much. He's not the same person that we met, but it proves how God is real. Some get
Wow.
upset that I say I don't attend a church. My God doesn't live in a church. I don't have an offering basket.
No.
I can show you scripture where it says I don't send out disciples with beggar bags. They don't like that because they're using it for a different reason. Joel Osteen has a garage full of cars, but I don't want to judge him.
An airplane?
Yeah.
No.
I don't know if you're familiar with Clint Eastwood, but he went to see this great Joel Osteen and just couldn't believe the whole thing. Just couldn't believe it.
Wow.
And they're thinking, oh my God, we've got Clint Eastwood here. And would you like to meet Joel? And he started telling Joel what he thought of him. So they called in the head of
Mhm.
security. And who do you think that was?
No clue.
Chuck
You?
Norris. Chuck Norris.
Oh, wow.
Uh-huh. You might want to listen to that. You can find that on YouTube. Interesting dialogue. See, some people don't
No.
realize that as much as you might think you can fool people, I want to go back to Bob Wall, staying with him. First morning, he gets up, and I'm already in the kitchen watching him. And he's got vodka in clear bottles, and he's pouring it in his orange juice. And I said, Bob, what are you doing? Oh, 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 oh. I said, what are you doing? Oh, I have to dilute the orange juice because it's just, so you think I'm so stupid that I don't know that's vodka? Now he's like a 9-year-old. Now remember, I was 9 when I met him, and now I'm in the role of being the adult. You don't I said, Bob, you told me you only
Right.
have a couple of drinks a day. See, you're constitutionally incapable of being honest with yourself or others. And it's so sad because the whole industry doesn't want to be around you anymore. You become an outcast. You talk about your penis in front of women and kids. They're liars.
Wow.
I could tell you something about Chuck Norris, but I don't want to go there. But believe it or not, there's things that happened that had them and their attorneys asking me to facilitate. And I'm like, again, is this amazing? These are two men I really looked up to at 9, and I'm now dealing with this. Wow.
Coral.
God has a sense of humor. Pat Burleson,
Yeah.
good Christian. Good Christian. When I got my 9th degree, he was arguing, why did you wait so long at 7th degree? I go, Pat, do you know what the number 7 is in the Bible? It's completion. So I don't have an ego where I need my 9th. Now they're giving out 10th degrees. Do you know how insulting
Yeah.
that is to old timers like me? Okay, it's like, really?
Very.
Bob White's Dojang's up the street here. And first it's Mitchell, then it's Bob. Now they're going to get Fred Brewster. It's like, come on, guys. Fred saw me as a young man take a couple guys out in front of Smoky Stovers, and he walked up and said, I want to get to know you. Where did you learn that stuff? And I didn't know he was very talented. So we became friends. Well, Fred is someone that unless you're a street fighter, he doesn't really pay much attention to you. That's just his nature. You know, Ed Parker used to be a lot like that. My dear friend, Mickey Bloats, one of the most successful agents in Hollywood, trained with Ed. And we used to run with Steve McQueen. And I mean, this was real life. These were all people that you're witnessing train, going to Bruce Lee's backyard, watching all this stuff. I
Wow.
remember when Bruce Lee wanted to be Steve McQueen, okay? And he desperately wanted a fast car. So I'll never forget, he got in the car and Steve McQueen took him on a ride down Mulholland where he was screaming like a bitch, almost peed his pants because that's what Steve got off on. But
Right.
see, to be a part of these things and to realize, wow, those were special moments. I mean, Jim Kelly,
Wow.
all of these guys. When I watch Bob Wall and Enter the Dragon, I'm like, you know, it's interesting that you can see how natural Bruce was. It wasn't, it
Right.
was effortless effort, but that was because of his training, his regiment, where again, I don't know how many times I've heard Bob boast about that movie and the people he taught. And I'm thinking again, Joe Louis taught celebrities. Chuck Norris taught celebrities, but because you, again, are you, you feel that you have to do this for attention. I want to
Mhm.
segue back to that. There's nothing wrong with attention if it's sincere, sincerity of purpose. So if somebody sees you hit a golf ball, well, it's a great shot. Thank you. But you don't have to look at that. You see that? Because that again is ego. So I'll repeat for Chuck to say to Bob, Bob, people talk about me. I don't talk about myself. They're talking about me. They're talking about my accomplishments, not me. You, on the other hand, are always trying to oversell who you are. That was the difference. I'm going to share something with
Right.
you I don't believe you or your listeners are aware of. I know firsthand, that Carlos Ray Norris gave Bob Wall over $7 million, helping him get out of jail, helping him get out of tax liens, defrauding his three partners, losing his real estate license.
Wow.
And if you had any idea what Bob was going to do to Chuck, and I said, you got to be kidding me. Because Chuck didn't want anything to do with him anymore. He had crossed the line.
That's sad. Yeah.
And again, these are people that were so close because Chuck, he wanted to help Bob. I remember 1993, Bob was literally on the verge of bankrupt, called Chuck. He says, what do you need? I don't know. Maybe the next day, $1 million was wired to his account. That's who Chuck Norris was. And you're going to
Wow.
badmouth him? See?
Right.
But I want to go back to balancing people that are deceased. I mean, I don't in any way want your listeners to think I don't respect and admire both these fine men that are both passed away now.
Mhm.
But the point is, you get to know who they really are. Chuck was blessed to meet Gina. Gina got Chuck back to God. Okay,
Mhm.
that's it, plain and simple. Gina got him to stop drinking Cavassier to excess. See, Gina. But see, that's how the Lord works.
That's unbelievable. But, we've been talking for about an hour now, and you've told this amazing, extraordinary story of your life. And it all started with martial arts.
Yep.
How did you maintain all this stuff and keep a love for martial arts all the way up until today?
Well, I'm still active. I still assist in testing. I
Mhm.
enjoy it. It's funny how some of the young people know who I am and they like to, again, either I read your book. I'm really hoping that you take time to read or listen to my book because I think some of the things
It's on
I've shared
order.
with you, you're going to go, oh my God. But the point is, I'm going to say again, I have people call me for help with addiction that say,
Mhm.
I'm calling you because I read your book. Now, wait a minute.
Right.
I thought the book was going to basically blackball me. Quite the contrary. Not
No.
only getting my PhD, not only getting into this industry, being mentored by Dr. Hedrick, Dr. Joseph Push, who set up Betty Ford, the greatest names took me in, just like martial arts.
Mhm.
See, these great people in martial arts took me, little Lenny, under their wing because I didn't have a father. Nobody saw my father at any event. My mother,
Mhm.
I mean, at my baseball games, you didn't see my father. My father, again, didn't have time for me. And that's okay. I found other men to provide me those skills how to hunt, fish, ride motorcycles. I've always been that curious kid that wasn't afraid to walk up to Mike Stone. I want to meet you. I mean, who does that? I did.
Little Eddie.
Yeah, and it's fascinating.
Well, let me just
I
interject
remind
something for you,
people,
sir.
I remind people we all have that child still within us. So many are reluctant
Yes.
to ever let it out. We wear these masks that this is my image. That's why I find it amazing in martial arts. It's like, how many patches can that guy put on his ski? How many? I mean, it's just,
Right.
you look at some of these belts. If nobody's told you, let me tell you, they literally take it to a grinder and they grind them because they want it to look all worn. And I'm like, I've got belts that I've been wearing for 55 years. I mean, you're full of shit. And see, I know it. And that's why it's funny
Right.
that you again think I'm going to be impressed. Well, the people that know. But I guess to some
Right.
layman, wow, that's pretty worn out. Yeah. How does that happen like that? Explain it to me. I remember getting my third dan from Master Richard Chung in New York. I didn't want to let that
Hmm.
belt go. It was not only satin, it not only was Sharado, my name was in, and I loved it. And again, all of a sudden, now it's time fifth. Come on, you got to get your fifth. You got to get, see, remember, in traditional martial arts, you have to go at least 2 years before your next testing. That's why it's funny. I
Hmm.
can name names of people that, wait a minute, I was in Texas when you got your seventh and all that. And how old are you? Are you 40 and you're now a grand master? And you see, I knew your dad when he was being taught by Pat Burleson. And then they make the mistake, John, of putting some video of them sparring at the firehouse. And I've got
Hmm.
green belts that could kick their ass. I guess that sums it up, doesn't it? And you know who I'm talking
Absolutely.
about. The same with the buffets. Let's end with this, okay?
Yes,
How
sir.
many are now called professor? So I'm a professor. Really? You're a professor in martial arts. Okay. And now I make my living with my museum. You mean the things you have in your house? See, that's not a museum. It's your
Mm-mm.
house. Then you finally go because John Natividad, I want you to come to Vegas. I want you to, okay, I'll come. John and I are laughing. Look at the quality of food. Look at this cheap trophy. Isn't this really an embarrassment? I mean, if they're going to
Right.
charge $300 for this event, don't you think they should have some decent food? And or you get into one of these Hall of Fames that I laugh at. It's like, who are these people? I'm like, I had no idea there was going to be this many people. So I've got very biased as far as I don't, I don't like to. I will say this. I'm sure you're aware, Grandmaster AJ Perry, who's the real deal,
100%.
when he inducted me into the Cleveland Hall of Fame, there is no pay to enter. There is no, so that touched me more than a lot that I've received. But it's interesting. You meet certain people that become your brother, they become your family. He comes to California, I
100%.
pick him up, he stays at my house. It's like, and then you meet others that you don't want at your house.
Right.
But
No, you hit
remember,
the nail
the
on the head.
interesting thing at these dinners is you hear so much from people that have been in 50, 60 years about, yeah, he was a
Mhm.
green belt. And all of a sudden he shows up, he's a brown belt. Nobody knows who he trained with. And really? And you just shake your head and go, wow, okay, okay. But it's easy to
I
fall
think I
into
know who you're
that.
talking about.
And it becomes negative. But I'd rather end on a stay in the light. And I want to emphasize again, your listeners, you can go to Amazon. That's me. That's Dick Buchanan on the back. There's Ken Norton. There's some
Wow.
pictures of me jumping off cliffs. It's a fun read. And like I said, you can get it on audio. A lot of the physicians, they like to listen to it, get it on Kindle. But I'm honored that people read it, especially when they leave a review. I'm hoping you will be so kind as to consider leaving a review
100%.
because it touches my heart. Even on my Google work page, leonardwayne.com, clients will leave me reviews. Now, remember, these are people getting therapy. And
Mhm.
I'm like amazed their name's there. Okay. But once again, that's how God works because I don't spend money on
Yes,
Google
sir.
advertising. I don't do any of that pay-per-click stuff. I just, again, get my phone number out there and people call. I always ask them, okay, do you have a higher power? And if they say, well, yes, I know Jesus, or no, I'm atheist, I give a different monologue. You get me? See, an atheist doesn't want to
Mhm.
hear about God right now. But the point is, you
No.
start asking questions. How long have you had this problem?
Mhm.
Are you willing to go to any lengths to get clean and sober? Okay. Some people call for an intervention, others call for therapy, but I never know. I never know where I'm going to go. I could get a call tomorrow and be on a jet going to Germany. And I say,
Wow.
wow, look at me now. Look what I'm doing. I mean, that Costa Rica, I'm talking deep sea fishing, zip lining, horseback riding. I'm getting paid for this. Gotta love my Jesus.
Yeah, he is a powerful God. Well, I want to thank you, sir, so much for being on. It was such a pleasure speaking to you. Um, the Martial Perspective podcast. My this is all about telling people's story and inspiring others. That's why I do what I do. I don't care if you practice Tang Soo. I don't if you do Filipino martial arts. I don't care what type it is. If you have a story, I want to hear it. And the next venture I want to do is I want to put together a martial perspective seminar series. Um, we're not going to do it this year. Maybe next year I'm putting it together, and I would be honored if you would want to attend that and present a seminar for just like an hour long seminar, you know, and then attend that. But that would be up to you, sir, and we could talk about that later. But it's
Well, it
such an
sounds
honor
like
to
something that I
speak
could
to
help
you.
people get out of darkness. So sounds good to me, young man. I'm very proud of you.
I
Grandmaster
appreciate
AJ
that,
Perry
sir.
speaks highly of you. That's why I took the time to do this, is I had a very busy day, and I'm asking myself, you made a commitment, you're going to keep it. And I hope I didn't hog your show.
Yes, sir. No, 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 no. You told a phenomenal, phenomenal story. And in fact, 6 months down the road, I'd like to catch up with you and do this again. And because an hour is not a long time to talk. The American people normally have an attention span about 45 minutes, but
If
I
that,
can attest to you that you've had my attention for an hour and 15 minutes now, sir. And
well,
it
I
was
take that as a
phenomenal.
compliment. Do you
Oh,
have any idea how large your audience is?
well, my show currently reaches anywhere from 2,500 to 3,500 people,
Wow.
and that's on just the Facebook platform. I'm not talking about YouTube, and I'm not talking about Spotify or iHeartRadio or any of those. I haven't really checked those lately, but we got a pretty long reach. I don't get all the likes and the hits I want, but it's growing. I've only been doing this for 5 months, so
Wow.
this is very gratifying to me. It's something that I spoke to Grandmaster Perry, Grandmaster Naples, and Master Warren about. And I said, hey, this is what I want to do. What do you think? Everyone said, with your personality, do it. You need to do this because everybody's got a
Amen.
story to tell. So,
Amen. Well, it'll
but
be interesting if you get any comments on our show. And it
oh,
was
I'm
a
sure
pleasure.
there's going to be a few.
It was a pleasure to get to meet you, John. And I look forward to doing more in the future. Okay.
Thank you, sir. I want to thank you. I want to thank the audience for watching. Always like, share, and subscribe. And, take care of one another. Tang Soo.
Amen. LeonardWayne.com. Give me a click. Roger out.